Fourth and Trollers. I have missed you. It's me, your boy Noah Selby, here along with
Wes Selby.
We're here, and we're so excited to have you back for another episode of Fourth and Troll Fantasy. We are approaching week 2 in full force. We've gotten to see what was an awesome Thursday night football game in AFC West Showdown. And I certainly enjoyed it. Wes, how you doing? How are you feeling about week 2 so far?
That was the game I hoped it would be. That is the kind of finish, came down to an onside kick. That's the kind of game I want between Chiefs and Chargers. I'm happy about it. How are you, Noah?
I'm great. I'm so happy. I love watching two unbelievably talented football teams go head to head, two very smart coaches go head to head, two very talented, probably the faces of the league of the future quarterbacks go head to head. Really, really awesome watching the Chiefs and the Chargers throw down at Arrowhead. And yeah, it was really sweet. I thought it was a great game, and I thought it was a great start to week 2, and hopefully great things to come following a great start to week 2.
That's right.
We do have a great show for you guys today. We're going to be recapping a little bit of last night's action here. We're going to play a little game called Hit or Miss, and then we're going to jump through to some studs and duds and just look at the coming week as a whole, what we're excited about, players we're excited about. But first things first, we're going to break down some news for you. Wes, hit it.
That's right. Let's get to the news. Now, this is important just for now that we've got an idea of how the players are starting to look. These injuries, these headlines are going to be more important as we go week to week. So let's start out with last night with that rough Justin Herbert injury, who continued to play with basically a rib inside his lung. But Brandon Staley, right after the game, said Justin Herbert is okay. Doesn't expect his injury to be an issue going forward. He said he's dealing with something in his abdomen. It's possibly the ribs. We'll see how that plays out. But so far, with a week and a half to recover, Justin Herbert is probably going to be good to go for week 3. Speaking of quarterback injuries, Dak Prescott's surgery was successful, and it looks like it's only going to be about 4 weeks. Now, I don't remember if that's the same kind of thumb injury Russell Wilson had, but Russell Wilson also came back in 4 weeks. So we'll see just how likely that 4 weeks is going to be for the Cowboys in their passing attack. Pete Carroll said on Seattle that he intends to play Kenneth Walker on Sunday against San Francisco. So for those of you who decided to draft him instead of Rashad Penny, is that right? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name. Thank you. Yeah. Kenneth Walker is supposed to be seeing some action Sunday. So if you dropped him, don't worry about it. But if you still have him, be on the lookout for the future there. Aaron Rodgers, also on a different show, said on the Pat McAfee show that he thought one of the biggest reasons that they lost to the Vikings was because they did not run the ball as much as they should have. So he is going to try to help get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon more looks, and believes that that is going to be one of their keys to their offense. Go figure with that receiving core.
That stinks, doesn't it, Wes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More work for A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Oh, man.
Yeah. So for those of you who had a little bit of a rough week with Aaron Jones, don't worry. Things are coming. And those of you that took your shot on A.J. Dillon, congratulations. More is to come. Speaking of coaches, Lovie Smith stated that with running backs, he said that Dameon Pierce is going to get more reps when they play Sunday against the Broncos. So also for those of you that took your shot on the rookie sensation, did not see that plan out at all last week against the Colts. But this Sunday, it's looking better, trending upward. Now for some injuries before we close out the news heading into week 2. Zach Ertz, J.K. Dobbins, they were both full participants in practice. They are trending upward to play this week. George Kittle has once again missed practice. I don't know why this guy cannot stay healthy, but here he is again, missing practice. It's probably turning into a concern. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
it's
he
early.
popped on the injury report Monday of week 1. And so and now we're still here getting close to week 2 and he's still not going. I don't know what to make of this. I'm concerned if I'm a Kittle owner.
Yeah, it's frustrating because he's great when he's on the field, but
Yeah.
he's just not on the field. So also with other injuries, DeAndre Swift, surprisingly, has now missed 2 straight practices. Just completely missed them. Did not play practice at all for 2 straight days with an ankle injury. Mike Evans was limited on Wednesday and did not practice on Thursday yesterday. And also Julio Jones did not practice Thursday either. So with Chris Godwin also looking to be in some rough shape with injuries, I'm interested to see how Brady's going to work with that. Yeah. Last but not least, Alvin Kamara has shown up on the injury report dealing with a rib injury of his own. And today's practice will indicate just how likely he will be playing on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that to see how they're going to examine that. But that's it. That's the news heading into week 2. Now let's recap Thursday Night Football, starting off with Noah, your must start, your faith in Mike Williams paid off.
Oh,
brag about it, dude.
Man, guys, we did it. We made it. We made it. Don't listen. Enjoy this feeling because we're gonna get another 3 or 4 point game in a couple weeks because it's the roller coaster we're gonna ride. But hey, what did I say? It's gonna be fun. And Thursday Night Football was fun if you were a Mike Williams owner. It was awesome watching the man 10 targets, a lot better target share than we experienced with him in week 1. 8 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. He looked like a beast out there, man. I know the Chiefs secondary is maybe a little suspect. We don't really know if, they lost Tyrann Mathieu, and we don't really know if they definitely have what it takes to, shut down these big name receivers. Regardless, Mike Williams was getting thrown the ball, caught 80% of his passes, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And his catches were like grown man catches. Like they were contested. He was covered. A 40-yard pass interference play. They're like, yeah, don't even need the penalty. He catches it. He takes that. I love it. The touchdown, one-handed, scooping down for it pretty much. Man, what a fun start to week 2 if you're a Mike Williams owner. That was awesome. He was definitely a bright spot there for the Chargers.
You put it really well that this is what people sign up for when they draft Mike Williams, is that you're kind of handcuffing yourself to that flex spot, maybe even the wide receiver 2 spot in your roster, saying because there's no pattern. Until we can figure out some pattern, you have to just put him in because there's no way to know. There's no way. 3 points, 30 points. You have to start him because who knows? There's no consistency to his inconsistency, but he had 7 targets in the first half, by the way. He was the guy.
Yeah, the Chiefs did figure out pretty much after his touchdown. I think they said, okay, so don't let him get behind you. And he was fairly shut down most of the second half after that touchdown. But the hope here is that while 10 targets might not continue whenever it ends up happening that Keenan Allen comes back and is healthy and is playing at 100%. While 10 targets may not happen every single one of those games, I feel good even with Keenan Allen there and back because of the skill set we're seeing from him on these difficult catches he's bringing down. I think Herbert has a lot of trust in him, and I think Herbert knows that he can give him a ball in a tight spot and he'll be able to get it. Since he came into the league, Mike Williams, I believe, has the most contested catch yards and receptions pretty much since he came into the league. And so he is a man who can just make it happen if you need him to. So I think Herbert has the trust in him there. Definitely a bright spot, though. Wes, your must start. Austin Eckler found his way to make you happy.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a good first half. I would say for the game itself, it was a tale of 2 halves. First half, all Chargers. Second half, all Chiefs. And it just ended up being in the Chiefs' favor by the end because Austin Eckler he finished the night with 14 carries and only 39 rushing yards.
Yeah.
But it was at the end of the third quarter, but really the fourth quarter that, I mean, Justin Herbert's injury may have contributed to that because he just started dinking and dunking it off to Austin Eckler and finished with 10 targets,
Yeah.
9 catches, 55 yards. And so for PPR value, that is why he ended up getting over 18 points on the night. But I mean, I'm still, if I'm an Austin Eckler owner, I mean, I look at that stat line, I think, okay, good. I didn't lose because of Austin Eckler's performance, but it didn't feel like he was balling out like he normally does. They put up that headline at the start of the game of like most
primetime touchdowns.
Yeah, and he had 9 primetime touchdowns last season.
Emmitt Smith.
Ridiculous, but has yet to do that.
Yeah, I'm a little, he got to 18.4. I think he was projected 18.2. So I think for a while, Eckler owners in Thursday Night Football were pretty worried about what was going on. He didn't look good running the ball. He like we said, 14 carries for 39 yards. He didn't look good. He looked at Sony Michel, Joshua Kelly, and Austin Eckler all carried the ball tonight. Austin Eckler, I think, looked the worst running the football out of the 3 of them. And it wasn't like it was like crazy different schemes and looks and, Eckler's just getting the outside work or just getting the inside work and Kelly and Michelle are going outside. No, they were all running pretty much the same schemes, and just Kelly and Michelle seemed to make more use of their carries and run better. And I'm going to break something down for you, Wes, real quick. Is that okay?
Please. I'm very interested.
I'm a little bit worried if I'm an Austin Eckler owner. I'm a little worried that I made a mistake with my draft pick in the first round if I drafted Austin Eckler. Because he was going inside the top 5 pretty much. I mean, as pretty much everywhere I saw him, sometimes he would float out to 6 or 7, but I kept seeing him going surely as a top 4 running back, whether it was JT, CMC, Henry, Eckler, sometimes he was going as the 3rd running back. I'm a little concerned if I own Austin Eckler. Let me take you through a little journey here. So week 1 last week, only 11.2 fantasy points against the Raiders. There were 25 running back carries. Austin Eckler only had 14 of them. So 14 carries is still decent, but there were still 11 carries to other backs that weren't named Austin Eckler that were, carries that he could have been getting. And so it's a little concerning there. And so now we go to week 2 here. Again, 14 carries, still pretty good. There were 22 carries by running backs that were available. And he had 14 of them. So still a decent carry count, stuff like that. Not too bad. Obviously, Thursday Night Football, 18.4 fantasy points for Austin Eckler in week 2, meets his projection. I don't think anyone's disappointed. I think maybe people might have wanted a little bit more. I think they wanted more because we saw him last year in week 1. There were 19 running back carries in week 1 last year. He had 16 of them. 16 of the running back carries last year in week 1. And then also in week 2 of last season, there were 29 running back carries. He had 17 of them. So he passed that 16 carry mark both the first 2 weeks last year. Now, Austin Eckler, 20 touchdowns last year, this man scored. 20 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Every single one of them came in the red zone. Every one of his touchdowns came in the red zone. He never broke a big one. They were all red zone touchdowns. Week 1 last week, 0 red zone opportunities. He did not get a carry or a target in the red zone last week. This week, and I think this is a product of Justin Herbert being hurt, he had 4 red zone opportunities. So he either had, I think he had 1 carry and 3 targets in the red zone this week. All of them came in the fourth quarter because they were, I believe 2 of them came at the end of the first half, and then 2 of them came in the fourth quarter. But just 4 red zone opportunities over the first 2 weeks of the season so far for Austin Eckler. Last year, first 2 weeks of the season, 7 red zone opportunities, also 3 touchdowns over the first 2 weeks last season.
Wow.
I am a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried if I drafted Austin Eckler. I don't think he's seeing the same opportunities he saw last year. I know he's not. I just gave you the maths. I did the numbers.
Them's the maths, baby.
Them's the maths, baby. I'm a little worried. I think if I'm an Austin Eckler owner, I'm a little bit worried here. I think we might need to reconsider some things when it comes to the expectation that we have. I said last week, he had those 11.2 points. I said, I think he ends up closer to the 15-point mark every single week than he does the 25-point mark every single week than he did last season. We saw the first 2 weeks last year, 20.2 fantasy points and 26.9 fantasy points. Now we look here at week 2. After a week 1 performance of 11 points, he gets 18 points. I'm a little worried if I took Austin Eckler as my RB1 in the first round. I'm maybe rethinking it a little bit, and I'm maybe looking at seeing if there's some trade options there for me. If I'm an Austin Eckler owner, them's the maths. I'm just a little worried. Let's move on to some other bright spots of Thursday Night Football. Is that cool?
Yeah, you're speaking my language, though, using math, probabilities, talking all about that.
I gave you the numbers. How excited did that get you?
I'm so excited.
So excited.
You make a really good point. I mean, just to cap off what you're saying, tonight, last night, Joshua Kelly and Sony Michel averaged more yards per carry, and they each had as many. They each had Austin Eckler had the longest rush for 8 yards. Joshua Kelly had an 8-yard rush. Sony Michel had a 7-yard rush. And the fact that Sony Michel was waived by the Miami Dolphins before the season started and is now getting work in with that same backfield. I know he's good. I know he scored the only touchdown that Rams Patriots Super Bowl. But I mean, that I'm smelling what you're stepping in, bro. I get it.
Yeah.
There is a concern for just the productivity that Eckler should be giving. I've seen him go first overall in some mock drafts. So I know people have done that. Yeah. But let's talk about someone else here, Noah.
Yeah,
let's look at your risky start.
Yeah.
Gerald Everett. If you started him, you're probably pretty happy for a tight end. He did better than Travis Kelce did for fantasy points.
Yeah. Yeah. This is 2 weeks in a row that Gerald Everett has broken the 13-point mark. I don't know if this is a product potentially of, I know Gerald Everett's touchdown last week came after Keenan Allen ran out of the game. Obviously, Thursday Night Football, Keenan Allen not playing. I don't know if this is a product of Keenan Allen not playing or if it's legit. If Gerald Everett is a safe option for Justin Herbert. And I think Justin Herbert sees that, on Justin Herbert's interception tonight that the Chiefs took back 99 yards for a touchdown. He was targeting Gerald Everett in the end zone. We're a pick six away and a miscommunication away here from Gerald Everett having like over a 20-point night. For fantasy football. And so I know it was a risk. If you started him, congrats. I'm proud of you. And thanks for riding. If you were a Cole Kmet week 1 owner and you needed to look elsewhere, congratulations. You're definitely happy with 10 targets over 1 target from week 1. But yeah. All right, Wes, let's jump over to your risky start for the week because we got a little risky, but what happened?
Dude, Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be for real, dude.
I think he is.
Last episode we talked about on our Fluker for real segment, we both said for real. And
terrifyingly, yes.
Yeah, I think we were both just kind of on the fence. I think it's probably for real. After last night, I think I'm leaning, I'm almost on the side of the fence, he's for real. Now, again, it's not the rushing yards. He had a pretty good stat line for rushing yards, 8 carries for 74 yards.
Yeah, that's just over 9 yards a carry. Right. That's there, by the way.
Really good.
He did break off a big one. I think he broke off a 40-yard run, but still.
He did. And that was at the end. And so he was going to get caught, but he stayed in balance. He slid. He tried to take some time off the clock. But still, his PPR value, again, was pretty good. 4 targets, 4 catches, 44 yards. He finished with 15.8 points. I'm going to start
I don't
him.
think you can complain. Yeah, I don't think you can complain. I think he showed us the Chargers defense is good. Joey Bosa,
They are good.
Kenneth Murray, like Derwin James, like these guys are good. And he still he had like he had a little catch over the middle, and he like did a little hop step and like trucked the crap out of somebody in the same hop step. And I was like, I sent you a photo of my real-time reaction when when that happened, and I was just like jaw dropped and my eyes scrunched. Like, is this the same dude that like has let us down like for so long, and he's doing it on so few touches? I can't believe I'm saying like, hey, there's a guy who's going to get like maybe 12 touches a game and lock him in. Feel good. Like it's just nuts. Crazy. It is crazy. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think he's the real deal. I think you can keep him in that lineup. I know Mahomes said it's going to be a different guy every week. So far, we've seen Clyde do good things for 2 weeks. I think Clyde might be a constant here. I know Jerick McKinnon did get the touchdown there at the goal line, but I don't know, man. And he 15.8 isn't terrible. And he's without a touchdown as well. So, easily he can do that, potentially that again and even score. And then you're looking into the 20-point range still. Crazy that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is doing these things. Let's talk about guys real quick, though, that just did the things that we totally just expected them to disappoint and do. Let's talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire's backup to the backup, Wes. Your don't start for the week. Tell us. Were we let down by not starting him?
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco had 0.6 points.
Wah, 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 wah.
That's all we got to say. Okay, Noah, let's talk about your don't start.
No. All the hype, whatever. DeAndre Carter, again.
Yeah.
3 targets, 3 catches, 55 yards. He was really saved by that incredible Justin Herbert laser after Justin Herbert couldn't walk the play before. I was like, oh man. I literally said they need to I texted in our fantasy league group chat and said they need to take Herbert out if they want a chance at winning this game. And then the very next play, he threw like a 30-yard rope to DeAndre Carter. And I was like,
his guts are incredible.
Never mind. Yeah. His guts are incredible, and his guts were spewing out of his abdomen pretty much because he couldn't move. Speaking of Justin Herbert, though, really solid night for you. He threw the ball nearly 50 times. Crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
But 23.46 fantasy points, 33 for 48, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously had the game-changing interception that he threw there at the 5-yard line that went 99 yards back to the house. By the 7th-round rookie, by the way, rookie corner on the Chiefs. Incredible. Welcome to the NFL moment for him in the opposite direction.
Right.
And then Mahomes, what do we think here? He had a great week 1, and then I know we were pretty low on him coming into the season, lower than consensus. I think things are evening out here a little bit.
I think that's a good way of putting it, just evening it out. And maybe it's not just about the receivers having a guess, but maybe Mahomes is going to have some of these 2 touchdowns, 250 yards or less nights. Now that I was just thinking about after last night's game that when it was Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, that was it. And win or lose, they were going to have great nights. Now, sometimes one guy was going to have a great night, the other was going to have a great night, but most often they were both going to have great nights. And now that Tyreek Hill is gone, I mean, huge props to Andy Reid for finding a way to make that offense win 2 in a row without Tyreek Hill. But it does mean for fantasy that this ball is going to get spread around in just a way to keep moving the ball forward, just to keep moving the chains, not so much for these huge touchdowns. I mean, Mahomes still scored 2 touchdowns, but Mahomes is not the 17-point quarterback that people are taking in the 3rd round. He's supposed to be getting at least 25 points. Yeah. So last week, fantastic. Happy for all of you. I think he was the number one scorer in fantasy last week, but now he is already not the number one scorer in week 2.
Yeah.
I mean, there are about 4 players that did better than him. So
yeah. One last thing
tricky.
on Thursday Night Football. It's just something actually one small thing and then another little thing here. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce, only 10 points. Not what you're hoping for. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned either. He still had a great night, or not. I mean, it wasn't a great night, but he still had a night where he, got body slammed like he was at WrestleMania.
Oh my gosh,
by Derwin James. That was a crazy play.
Could have been a penalty, but
yeah. I honestly think it's a penalty on probably anybody else besides Travis Kelce. Honestly, if I'm being honest, because I don't know, Kelsey's a champ and just got him from it and was like, "Oh, did a fly run into me? Cool, sounds good. Next play." But something I noticed and had said last season, Patrick Mahomes' first 6 touchdowns that he threw last season, 3 in week 1, 3 in week 2, all but one of them came from outside the 10-yard line. Patrick Mahomes has thrown 7 touchdowns this season so far. 6 out of the 7 of them have all come inside the 10-yard line. This offense is still very, very good. It is just so different than what we are used to seeing. And I think that's going to turn some people away from maybe some of their options, but I think they're still going to produce well as far as fantasy numbers goes. Again, it's going to be tough to figure out who it is, but besides that, again, a great pass from Mahomes to Justin Watson, who is like 3rd or 4th on the receiver depth chart, came in for Mecole Hardman for like 2 plays. Very first play he came in for him, he caught the touchdown. Every touchdown he's thrown so far this season has been inside that 10-yard line. This Chiefs offense has been so explosive. I think we're going to need to get used to seeing still some great plays, but I think this offense is just going to drive down the field and do it well, but then they're going to get inside the 10 and score. So if you're in a league where you get, bonuses for long touchdowns or something like that, I don't think you're going to get that upside with your Chiefs players this season based on these first 2 weeks.
Yeah. When you say that, what comes to mind is just not as many yards from Mahomes as we're used to, and can't rely on people breaking off long runs or long touchdowns. So
yeah, it's something I said in the preseason, losing Tyreek Hill, he's losing this player that, they've talked about in the meme that's, F it, Tyreek's down there somewhere. And then just chuck it, that sort of thing. He's losing that insanely explosive 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game player. And so this offense looks a little different, but, I think Mahomes still produces fine for your fantasy football team. Just might be a little bit capped there. Let's move on from that incredible start to week 2. Wes, let's jump into a new little segment here called Hit or Miss. Are you ready?
I'm really ready.
Awesome. So let's break this down real quick. Wes and I have each chosen a player from each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We are going to give a benchmark that they are maybe going to hit and maybe not based on their last week's performances. And then the other is going to make a bet, see if they're going to hit or if they're going to miss on that. I'm going to go. Wes is going to go. We're going to go back and forth. It's going to be a grand old time. I'm going to start us off here, Wes, with the first quarterback of hit or miss.
Okay.
It's going to be quarterback of the Washington Commanders, Carson Wentz.
Okay.
Carson Wentz last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars had a great game.
Yeah.
Great game. He threw 4 touchdowns in that game. Wes, I want to know, is Carson Wentz going to throw 4 or more touchdowns this week against the Detroit Lions? Is he going to hit or miss that?
I'm going to say miss.
Yeah.
I'm going to say miss. And I'm going to say 3 touchdowns. Not that changes anything, but it's just, I don't think he's going to throw 4 again.
Yeah.
I'm going to say miss.
I think you might be right. I think we saw this Eagles offense last week against the Lions have a lot of success running the football. I think they probably leaned that way a little bit more. Yeah, I think they leaned that way a little bit more. But it wouldn't, if we come out of this week and say, yeah, of course he had 4 touchdowns again. He did it week 1. He's going to do it week 2. He's going to do it every single week. I'll go, yeah, duh, of course. But I think I'm with you on that. I think he misses that mark this week.
Yeah, and no offense to Carson Wentz, but he has also been known to be inconsistent, where some games he is the 2017 MVP candidate that we still love him for, and then some other weeks he is the lose a sure playoff team to Jacksonville at the end of the season in Indianapolis. So,
oof.
Big oof. So
big oof.
I think that's why. Okay, Noah, here's my QB for you. You ready?
I am ready. I'm buckled in.
I'm going to ask you about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, Aaron.
Okay. Here's some stats for you. He had an abysmal week 1 without Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. And the most yards a wide receiver had for the Packers were 37.
Yeah.
He finished the day going 22 for 34, 195 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Now, Aaron Rodgers is going to host the Chicago Bears, who he has proudly says, I still own you.
Yep.
He's going to look to redeem that. However, I looked through the last 4 years of Packers versus Bears games. Devontae Adams has contributed to 30% of Rodgers' yards and touchdowns. Rodgers averages 254 passing yards and 2.5 touchdowns against the Bears. But if you take away Devontae Adams' stats, Noah, Aaron Rodgers will have less than 190 yards and only 1 touchdown, scoring less than 12 fantasy points. Hit or miss?
Wow. Okay, so is the benchmark 12 or more fantasy points, or is it the 190 yards?
12 or more fantasy points.
I think he's going to hit. I think he goes over 12. I think he goes over 12. It was a rough week 1, man. And so I think he this week is going, all right. Hey, Matt LaFleur, let's figure this bull hockey out. Okay. Let's figure out what we're doing here. I think he goes over 12 fantasy points. I think he is going to utilize, like he said on the McAfee show, he's going to utilize the backs. They might get a little more run. I think they also are going to get some more targets as well. I think he goes over 12.
It's ridiculous that I even have to ask that question because
it's crazy.
Aaron Rodgers, but this is the reality.
It is. It is the reality. I'm going to jump over to running backs here, Wes.
Yeah.
Running back for the Houston Texans, Rex Burkhead.
Okay.
He saw 22 opportunities last week. Opportunities are carries plus targets for anyone who doesn't know that yet. But he saw 22 opportunities last week against the Indianapolis Colts. Do we think Rex Burkhead is going to hit or miss 20 plus opportunities this week against the Denver Broncos?
No. He won't.
Just no.
Miss. No.
Yeah?
No. I know that Dameon Pierce is going to get involved. 1, because Lovie Smith said so. But 2, there's no way they're going to continue to let this guy, this superstar rookie running back, only see the field 28% of the time.
Yeah.
Just for that alone, Rex Burkhead is not going to see 20 plus carries. Now, sure, Burkhead could maybe get some goal line touchdowns. I don't care. That's not the benchmark. The benchmark is 20 carries. No. No. Confident.
You may still say no. 20 opportunities. So carries plus targets. So
I'll still say no. I
think you might probably still say no. I think, you know what, Wes? Do you want to throw down a little intro of the show wager on this?
Little intro to the show wager?
Let's throw an intro to the show wager on this.
Okay.
22 opportunities last week against the Indianapolis Colts in a game where the Texans were up by 17 points.
Yeah.
By 17 points. I think in a game that is much more of a blowout for them, where they may be passing the ball more, I'm going to say Rex Burkhead goes over 20 opportunities this week.
I To tag on to that, I will say if he does, I've got concerns already for Damian Pierce if he does not
Yeah.
improve on Sunday. But very interesting, Noah. I like this game. This is fun. This is fun. Bet.
Bet.
All right. Here's my running back. Here's my running back. I'm going to talk about Travis Etienne. Speaking of tandems in the AFC South.
Yep.
Travis Etienne, he scared fantasy owners that James Robinson was probably going to be the better running back because he put up 2 touchdowns. Now, they had nearly a perfect 50-50 snap count. Robinson had more carries, but Etienne had more targets and catches.
Mm-hmm.
They're facing that same Indianapolis Colts you just talked about, and they only allowed 77 yards rushing. Trevor Lawrence threw 42 times last week. Travis Etienne will have more fantasy points than James Robinson next week. Yes or no?
I'm going to say hit. I think he does. I think Etienne was 2 plays away from being a major fantasy player in week 1. He dropped a 4th and 1 pass that probably would have gone in for a touchdown, and Trevor Lawrence overthrew him on a wide open touchdown in the end zone. I think Travis Etienne does jump ahead of James Robinson this week, so I'm going to say hit.
I agree. I mean, I know it's for you, but I agree. I think Travis Etienne is going to have to find some PPR volume.
Yeah.
With this kind of game coming up.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to take us to wide receivers here. I'm going to give you another Washington Commanders wide receiver, and it's going to be Terry McLaurin.
Oh,
scary okay. Terry, some might call him, based on how scary it is to maybe start him this week after just 4 targets last week, the least amount of targets out of the top 3 wide receivers.
Yeah.
Even though he led the wide receiver room in snaps. A little scary Terry for sure.
Sure.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Wes, does Terry McLaurin go over 4 targets this week? Hit or miss?
I think hit.
Yeah.
I think hit. I'm glad I don't have to specify because it could very well just be 5. I mean, the fact that Curtis Samuel dominated the target share and 8, that the rookie Jahan Dotson also had just as many targets, and Gibson, McKissick.
Gibson.
I think yes, he will hit 4 targets or more than 4 targets, but it may just be 5. It may just be by default.
I think it might be close. Hitting. Yeah, I think it might be close, but I think I agree with you on that. I think the organization paid the man a lot of money, and I think they're going to say, "Hey, Ron, Mr. Rivera, let's go ahead and involve him a little more. Let's see if Carson can get on the ball a little more." I agree with you on Terry McLaurin hitting over 4 targets this week. What do you got for me?
I've got a receiver that I know you are a little bit indifferent about, and that's what I want to hear your answer for. I'm going to talk about Julio Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He saw the most air yards per target by any receiver that saw 5 or more targets. He averaged 22 yards per target. Now, most of that came from that long bomb Brady threw to him for a 48-yard catch.
Yeah.
But Chris Godwin injured, Mike Evans hamstring injury. I know Julio didn't practice yesterday, but I'm going to say Julio Jones ends up with 85 yards receiving, hit or miss.
Oh, man. I'm going to say miss.
Okay.
I'm going to say miss, and I think it's the matchup. I think the Saints defense is really good. I know a lot of the attention goes to the Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore kind of situation there. And I know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a lot better than the Atlanta Falcons, who the Saints played last week. But even the Falcons' top receiver, Drake London, I believe still only was in the 70-yard mark. Yeah, I think Julio Jones might. Yeah, I'm a little glad I don't have to specify, but I think he might. Was it 80 yards or 85?
85.
I think he goes. I think he misses the 85-yard mark.
Okay,
I think he's gonna miss on that one.
cool. We'll
Let's
see.
move on.
I'm
Yeah,
just
we'll see.
interested. I'm
We'll
just
see what
interested to
happens.
see how Julio does.
We'll see what happens. We're just throwing darts here. We're throwing darts and seeing what
For
sticks.
funsies.
Yeah. Let's see with tight ends here to close us out on the hit or miss segment. Hayden Hurst, tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals, 8 targets last week. I'm not sure if that is a product of maybe it was T. Higgins going out that Hayden Hurst got some target share last week. But 8 targets for a tight end, I don't think you can complain about that as a fantasy owner. He hauled in 5 catches on 8 targets. This week they play the Dallas Cowboys, who we saw on Sunday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Interesting, situation in Dallas. That defense is still very good. Not sure what the offense looks like there. Not sure what the Bengals game script will be. But Hayden Hurst, is he going to hit or miss on 5 or more receptions this week against the Cowboys?
Ooh, receptions, not targets.
Receptions. Yeah, I know. I threw a smoke screen up there for you.
Yeah. I'm going to say hit.
Yeah?
I'm going to say hit because my reasoning is because Jamar Chase saw 16 targets.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not think he will see that at least next week. I would even say the rest of the season. But Jamar Chase.
Probably not with Trayvon Diggs on him, yeah.
Right. Dominated. Now,
yeah.
I think just the nature of defenses is to try to lock down the best option in the passing game.
Yeah.
And Hayden Hurst is worth throwing the ball to. He's not just some guy that is just that by default has to catch the ball because he's a tight end. He's a good receiver.
Yeah, he's been outshined in his previous landing spots. Austin Hooper in Atlanta, Mark Andrews in Baltimore, that sort of thing. So I agree with you. I think he probably hits his mark. I think he hits as well.
Yeah. So last, but certainly not least, I'm going to talk about sensation, week 1 phenomenon, OJ Howard.
Oh,
this guy had 2 catches and 2 touchdowns.
He did.
He was the tight end 2 of week 1, just behind Travis Kelce. OJ Howard was only on the field for 17% of the snaps.
Yeah, he was.
And of those 12 snaps, he only ran a route 4 times. So I'm going to make it extreme.
Do it.
OJ Howard will have less than 5 points this week.
Yeah, hit. Hit. There's no way he goes over 5 points. It's ridiculous.
I love it.
It's ridiculous. 2 catches two catches for 2 touchdowns for 38 yards. I'm like, yeah, of course he did. He's that's his best game times 4 for the entire season. He's gonna miss, and I almost didn't even need you to give me the question. I was just said miss from the beginning because the production there is not going to follow through.
Sure.
There are far better options than OJ Howard on that Texans offense for Davis Mills to throw to, especially in a game where they're probably going to be down against the Broncos. I think he's going to go to their best guys. And miss every single time.
It's a beautiful song.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wrote it right now. Let's jump in to our last segment of the episode here, Wes. And I think it might be a crowd favorite. It's at least one of my favorites. It's studs and duds, baby.
Let's go.
It's studs and duds. Again, we each have 1 stud and 1 dud for the week. Guys that we think are going to overdo their projection. Guys that we think are going to underperform their projection. Wes, give me your stud for week 2.
Yeah, my stud for week 2 is going to be Dalton Schultz. Yeah, Noah and I are high.
I like hearing that.
So it's not just bias, but there's a little bit that I want to explain. It's not too much because it's very simple. 1, obviously there is concern for this Cowboys passing offense. No Dak Prescott. How is it going to look with Cooper Rush? Are they all just going to fall flat and they're going to hand the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott 60 times a game? Well, we already saw Cooper Rush at the end of the game with the Bucs Sunday night last week that he gave the ball to Dalton Schultz already a couple of times. Tight ends are famous for being a security blanket. And CeeDee Lamb, I don't think he's going to be the guy that Cooper Rush is going to try to get the ball to. I mean, I'm sure he will occasionally, but 11 targets, 2 catches. I think there's already something with Cooper Rush and Dalton Schultz. Now, if you don't want to read in between the lines there like I am with just the game script and what you're trying to interpret, here's just a bona fide stat. They're playing the Bengals. And the Bengals last season were the absolute worst against tight ends. They allowed the most catches by a tight end, the most receiving yards for tight ends, and the 4th most touchdowns for a tight end. And if they're going to play anything like they did last week, I think you can probably start Dalton Schultz with confidence. It doesn't matter the quarterback because the Bengals defense is not going to stop tight ends. So Dalton Schultz, our superstar tight end of the season, start him, lock him in. That's my stud for week 2.
I love it. I am a Dalton Schultz owner. I reached on Dalton Schultz in our draft. I am very excited to see what he can do for this Dallas Cowboys offense in this Dak Prescott's absence. I'm very excited about it. We saw him throw. I think Cooper Rush hit him twice, but I think Cooper Rush went to I think his name is Sammy Fehoko, another Cowboys tight end. Cooper Rush targeted tight ends 4 or 5 times being in that game just once he came in after Dak got hurt.
In 2 drives, by the way. 2
drives. So I love it. I think, and if the Bengals are bad again against these tight ends, which Pat Freiermuth saw a decent week last week. And so I think it's a great pick for a stud. I think it's I think he's going to be freaking awesome. And as a Dalton Schultz owner, I love hearing it.
I'm glad. Yeah. And Freiermuth, to your point too, saw 10 targets. So
yeah,
I think it's already going to continue from last season's bad tight end coverage of the Bengals. Let's hear your fantasy stud for week 2, Noah.
I am thrilled to share with you my fantasy stud for week 2. It is going to be Cleveland Browns running back Nick Chubb against the New York Jets this week. He is projected 14.9 fantasy points. Nick Chubb is coming off a top 20 running back week in week 1 where he didn't score a touchdown. He didn't score and he was still a top 20 running back. He got 23 opportunities going up against a Jets team who admittedly I think played better than I thought they would against the Ravens. I have Chubb putting up massive numbers for this week. He's one of the best pure rushers in the league. I know people joke around saying that now because it's all, he's one of the best pure rushers, man. He's one of the best pure rushers. I think a lot of people care about fantasy, and so they don't really care to hear that Nick Chubb is the best pure rusher in the league, but he really is one of the best rushers in the game. And it's great for fantasy football, but it's capped by his receiving upside. But I don't think that's really going to factor here. I think the Panthers are a better defense than the Jets are in all assets, really, not even just defense, but also offense. And Nick Chubb just had 141 rushing yards against them on 23 carries. Cleveland Brown running backs scored 2 touchdowns last week. They just both happened to go to Kareem Hunt. But I'm anticipating a similar game script for the Browns here in week 2 against the Jets. And I'm going to bet on Chubb to reach the end zone at least once on Sunday. And so I'm ready to start him with confidence. And I am bracing for a boom because I think Nick Chubb is going to blast past that nearly 15-point projection. I think he's going to have a great week this week. I'm excited to watch Nick Chubb play football on Sunday.
It's funny that we would even need to include a second round, sometimes even first round talent as a stud, but 15 points for Nick Chubb, that's the projection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course he's going to do better than that.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
It's the Jets defense?
Yeah. 141 rushing yards and didn't even score a touchdown. So, I mean, even if he just, 141 yards is a little tough to repeat, but I think he blows past that projection there. He is my stud for the week. Let's talk about some people who are going to be a little more disappointing. Wes, who's your dud for week 2?
I'm going to declare with complete confidence that DeAndre Swift is going to be a week 2 bust.
Uh-oh.
Pasquerios. Okay, look, DeAndre Swift, I think we should know by now he's extremely boom and bust. But he is so boom and bust. He has not scored 13 points in consecutive weeks, except for one time in his career. It is massive. Wow. Yeah. He does great one week and then really bad the next week. Last season, just tell you some numbers. Week 1, 16 points. Week 2, 7. Week 3, 16 points. Week 4, 4. Week 5, 16 points. It just goes on like this. I won't say them all, but it is high, low, literally every other week. The only time it's consecutive is when it's low. He had 8 points in week 1 in 2020, and then 7, and then 1, and then it was 11, and then it was 24. Nice. And then it was 10, and then it was 2, and then it was 9, and then it was 20. He's boom and bust. And if it's anything like last season, it's high then low, then high then low. It's low. That's just the way that he performs. And on top of this, I mean, we just kind of found out he's got an ankle injury. So I don't know how explosive he's going to be if he even starts. And counting him to start, I still think he's going to be a bust. He's projected 17 points, but he's never once scored 13 points or more in a row. So there you go. DeAndre Swift, week 2 bust.
I must say, as someone who is a Dalton Schultz owner and someone who is playing against DeAndre Swift this week, this was like my favorite segment on the show so far because this is awesome.
I hope I'm right for your sake.
I hope so too. Listen, them's the numbers, them's the maths. Right. That is extremely interesting. I've never known about that he is. I mean, I knew he was kind of boom bust, but I know last year he was, top 10 running back, pretty high in that ranking for the up until like week 11 or week 10 when he got hurt. But they must just go up and down, up and down, up and down. Yeah, I am going to be interested, especially with the faith that they have in Jamal Williams and the reports of him not practicing. DeAndre Swift owners, you might need to watch out a little bit. You might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, and Jamal Williams having 2 touchdowns, I mean, that vultured a lot of points from DeAndre Swift, and I think that even adds more to what week 2 will look like with DeAndre Swift's injury. So just don't say we didn't warn you. Let's close out the show with your week 2 dud, Noah.
Yeah, my week 2 dud is going to be Alvin Kamara, running back for the New Orleans Saints.
Wow.
Up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. He is projected 17.8 fantasy points in week 2. If you're a Kamara owner, you were let down in week 1, and I'm afraid that's going to probably continue for you in week 2. As we said before, he's dealing with injuries as it is, so there's a chance he may not even play, which is probably maybe a cancel out, but also maybe like the ultimate dud because, he's just sitting on the bench
0,
there. Yeah, he's just sitting on a bench there. But, he picked up the rib injury in week 1. Coach Dennis Allen did say he didn't think it was going to be much of an issue, but I'm not so sure. Again, limited in practice on Wednesday. Again, was suited up but didn't participate on Thursday. We're going to need to see what happens today in practice. But I'm still worried if Kamara is in my starting lineup for week 2. Last week, he only saw 13 opportunities in the Saints' comeback win against the Falcons. He only saw 4 targets. And last year in games where Kamara saw 4 or less targets, he only managed to go over 15 fantasy points twice in those types of games. He doesn't seem to be getting the work that he did in his heyday under a new coaching regime and with a quarterback that isn't Drew Brees. Plus, going up against a Buccaneers defense who held Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard to a combined 10.1 fantasy points does not bode well for Alvin Kamara this week. Listen, if he's playing and you have him, you have to start him because it's Alvin Kamara. You have to start him. You spend a second round pick or depending on how much you value him, maybe even a first round pick. But If you have him and he's playing, he has to be started, but temper your expectations for Alvin Kamara this week. I do think he is in for another rough week, especially if, and I'm not advocating for run to the waiver wire and pick up Taysom Hill, but especially if Taysom Hill is getting some red zone rushing work, which I don't think continues, by the way. But if for some reason it does, Alvin Kamara does not look well in that situation and look like it's going to be a beneficial situation for him to have another person inside the red zone running the football that is not Alvin Kamara. And so temporary expectations, I'm a little bit worried about Alvin Kamara this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's interesting how since Brady has had one division rival in each of the two teams he's played for that has just dominated him. For whatever reason, every time he went into Miami, Brady with New England just could not beat Miami when he was down there in South Florida. And now it seems that in the regular season, he has no control over the Saints.
Yeah.
But that's the defense, though. It's not the Saints offense that dominates the game. It's the Saints defense. So if you're into that kind of superstition or looking at these patterns, it's the Saints defense that takes over the game. I know that may sound like more rushing yards, but I'm with you, Noah. I don't know how Kamara, I mean, he's projected 17.8 points.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. I still think he can get double digits.
That's a lot for a guy that didn't break 10 last week. So yeah, I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried if I own Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I think he can get double digits, but I don't think he's going to. I'm with you. I don't think he's going to get 18 points plus the injury. Who knows? And Michael Thomas seems to be doing fine. I think he looks back, I agree. I'll just say that. I agree with you.
Dud Central right there. Dud Central. That is going to be all the time we have for this episode of Fourth and Troll Fantasy. Wherever you are listening, we'd appreciate it if you gave the episode 5 stars and write something funny in the review so we can give you a shout out next time. We're on social media everywhere under Fourth and Troll Fantasy. On Facebook, Fourth and Troll Fantasy. On all the ones where you have the little tag with the @ you can just @ Fourth and Troll. Look for our mascot, Teddy the Troll, and make him smile by giving us a follow. And joining us next time, every Tuesday and Friday, I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy.